The truth is plain to see. If you want freedom, take pride in your country. If you want democracy, hold on to your sovereignty. And if you want peace, love your nation. Wise leaders always put the good of their own people and their own country first. The future does not belong to globalists. The future belongs to patriots. The future belongs to sovereign and independent nations who protect their citizens, respect their neighbors, and honor the differences that make each country special and unique.
On this episode of Just Informed Talk, we're going to take a look at the latest new Q posts, which are going to tell us the anatomy of a scam that's being run against you and we, the American people. We're going to take a closer look at that. Plus, we're going to take a deep dive into the latest news stories about everything going on with this impeachment hearing hoax they're pulling on Capitol Hill, trying to frame the president for a crime he never committed and trying to remove him from office. But we're going to get deeper into it, so I hope you guys stick around and check this out. Hi, my name is Craig, and welcome to another episode of Just Informed Talk. Today, we have a lot to get into. First, I always say thank you. If you've hit the subscribe button, why do I always ask? Because it makes a difference. If you guys haven't done it, come here to the landing page, click the big red subscribe button, make sure you hit the bell for notifications so you get notified when these videos get posted. Yes, we do have new Q posts, and we're picking up where we left off. We left off at Q post 3646. We're picking up at Q post 3647. We're going to get into that in just 1 minute. Before we do that, I always like to remind everyone also, there's a content suppression algorithm working actively right now to suppress this video and many others from channels like mine that you have to understand we can break, we can defeat. But how do we do it? We have to hit the share button on this video. It's simple. It takes you like 3 seconds. It doesn't cost you anything. Just hit the share button, get it out on your social media, because they're actively trying to suppress this content. And I've had all types of things now happening to my channel in the background. Videos won't upload to playlists. All types of weird stuff's going on in the back end with YouTube. So it seems like they're turning the screws up even more, trying to destroy this channel. So I don't know what to do besides ask you guys to get out there and share this information on your own and help to just get the word out. Because like Q says, we are the news now, and they are terrified of us awakening people to what's actually happening. So if you're scratching your head going, what's QAnon? What's this guy talking about? Watch this video right here. What is QAnon, the Great Awakening? It'll give you all the information you need, plus a whole bunch more. And also, before we get started, I'd like to remind everybody this video is brought to you in part by Brave Browser. Use the link in the description to download the Brave Browser today. What is it? Well, it's free. That's a big thing. It's a browser, an internet browser, just like Internet Explorer, Google Chrome, Mozilla Firefox, but it's better. It blocks the ads that make your internet experience so unbearable at times. So you need to download this, install it on your computer, and then run it just like you would Google Chrome or any other internet browser, but it helps protect your privacy. It blocks ads. It's got a built-in VPN and a Tor browser. So there's a lot of benefits to this. Plus, did I mention it's free? Well, go check out the link in the description, download the Brave Browser today, and I use it, and I really want you guys to use it because it's a great product. So when you use the link in the description to download it, they'll make a contribution to this channel. So thank you for checking that out. Definitely a win-win. But let's get right into the latest Q posts today. Here we go. The first Q post we're going to talk about is Q post 3647. Now, this post gets into the climate accord, the Paris Climate Accord scam, which has been put forth for quite some time, and it talks about some very interesting things. So we're going to get right into it. Here's what Q shows us. First, Q gives us this article from Reuters, right, which talks about how the U.S. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi is saying now that the climate summit, we're still in. Even though President Trump formally withdrew our participation from that, apparently Nancy Pelosi has really gone totally senile and believes that she can somehow outrank the president of the United States in making deals with foreign countries, which is just absurd, right? But the House Representative Speaker has come forward now and said that she plans to keep us still in the International Climate Accord. Well, why would she want to do that? It's exactly what Q has told us from day one. These people are corrupt criminals who siphon money out of these crazy, ridiculous things into their own pockets because they're paid off, bought and paid for. And this whole climate change scam where they're just trying to brainwash kids and you basically into believing that the world's going to end in 10 years or 12 years or whatever if we don't start sending trillions of dollars to this unaccountable, unelected bureaucracy of European aristocrats whose families have been in control of these institutions in Europe for, I don't know, centuries, right? These are the people who we need to give trillions of dollars to because they're going to save the world. That's exactly what we're being told here. But nobody audits the money. The money just goes into this invisible, altruistic motive of we're going to give a bunch of money to a bunch of these countries to, you know, put up a few windmills and take the rest and basically pay off politicians and siphon it into slush funds that nobody will ever see or hear of, except politicians who go into office making, you know, six figures and having a net worth of maybe a few $100,000 walk out multi-millionaires, right? Oh, because they signed on for the climate accord. Because, you know, that's really what fights climate change, is putting billions, or trillions of dollars into these criminals' pockets. That's how we stop climate change, ladies and gentlemen. That's what they want us to believe. Of course, here Q gives us this other article talking about how much will the Paris Agreement cost. And, you know, it's not that big a number. It's pretty reasonable. It says the total cost for just the developing countries to implement their nationally determined contributions. So, they're nationally determined how much they have to contribute. It's only $4.4 trillion, which really is just a drop in the bucket for these people because they've been stealing, scamming, embezzling money for years and decades. They've probably taken multiple trillions. So what's another 4 trillion, right? Into the pockets of these criminals who want to lie to us and tell us the world's going to end in 10 years so they can tax us into oblivion and destroy the sovereignty of nations and replace it with this global hegemony of unelected, you know, aristocratic bureaucrats who literally don't care about you. They just care about power, money, and how much of it they can get. So that's where we're at right now, and that's what Q's kind of pointing out here, the scam of it all, right? It says how to steal taxpayer money, the con. And we've talked about this before. Determine topics that have emotional pull, connect on vocal types, right? Could you think of somebody? I don't know, Greta Thunberg, the teenage activist who tells us all how bad our lives are and how, you know, it's very evil for you to use any type of carbon to drive your car, to go to work every day, to make this country successful and prosperous. That is evil. You're an evil person, and heaven forbid you happen to work in oil and gas. You're basically equivalent of the most evil person ever alive, right? I don't know. You take your pick, right? But Obama says that she's already one of our planet's greatest activists. Well, this little child actor who wants to get up there, or excuse me, not child actor. I should be very polite because she's a very nice young woman, right? In my opinion, too, she probably is, and she's just being completely manipulated by the people around her. But she comes forward and says, and Obama says that she's one of the greatest advocates. Well, of course, because he's benefiting his slush fund in Singapore. Remember, Obama, your slush fund where you get all those millions of dollars for, you know, basically selling our country out to the globalists? You remember that part? Allegedly, let's just say, to be fair. But that's what I think Q's talking about. Then it says, create a media blitz and scare campaign, talking points, alarmists. Well, does that remind you of somebody like AOC getting up and saying the world's going to end in 12 years, you're all going to die? And while Obama goes and buys a beach mansion, right, where if he really believed in all this nonsense, he would never buy a house on the beach because we're all going to be underwater, right? Crazy, right? These people are literally sick, disgusting, and crazy in the head. They use the pro-narrative minded authorities on subject to provide foundation to support. So they get a bunch of scientists who've, you know, signed all these, movements and said, hey, you know, we're coming together to tell you that the world's not going to be here in 10 years. Well, guess what? That was the same prediction made by Al Gore, 2 decades ago. And yeah, we're still here. So I'm not really that worried about it. They're going to deploy circular reporting and groupthink tactics in their echo chamber to artificially raise the public outcry. And that's exactly what you see with these mainstream fake news companies, liars in the news, who get up on CBS, NBC, and MSNBC, CNN and report on these heroic children skipping school to go and protest climate change, which is probably the funniest thing is that nobody even seems to recognize the fact that the whole push by Greta Thunberg is to literally have them skip school on Fridays or something. I guess that's the gist of it. They skip school to go protest climate change. So basically, you know, the only way that you can be dumb enough to fall for this whole scheme is to actually, they have to remove the people from school. So you have to stop educating yourself. Then you can believe this nonsense, right? I think that's kind of hilarious, but and disturbing at the same time. A little bit of both, right? And they go ahead and they use the public outcry to justify $1 billion of taxpayer money given to all of these different causes that end up doing nothing but enriching the politicians and the elite who back these crazy causes, right? To as I said before, they are basically trying to steal the wealth of sovereign nations, to collapse them, to bring in a global hegemony that can be in charge of global taxation and global control. That's what it is, right? That's what it is. Rinse, repeat. They just do it again. Who audits where the money goes? I don't know. Do you know? You tell me. We're the major global auditors of how they're spending these trillions of dollars. I'd love to hear that or see that. Percentage to original mandate? Probably very small, just like the Clinton organization, the Clinton Foundation saying, oh yeah, we spent all this money in Haiti. When you look at the real numbers, they spent like 5% of what they took in on like helping people, and they took like 90% plus into their back pockets for costs, right? Operating costs. Says salary of a U.S. senator, salary of a U.S. congressman, woman, salary of U.S. president, salary of U.S. vice president, net worth pre-office, net worth post-office. How do elected officials become mega multimillionaires? Corruption, logical thinking, Q. And this is the biggest thing, right? We talked about it before briefly, but look, these people come into office. They just walk into office making, you know, six figures. They have a few $100,000 in the bank. Yeah, they've done all right. And then they leave office a few years later, or a few decades later in some cases, or they stay in and they become multimillionaires. And you have to ask yourself, is it just a coincidence, or is it by design that they're pushing for the entire nation to start contributing billions and trillions of dollars to a global, unaccountable body of people who are basically just enriching themselves with no oversight and no, there's nobody actually looking at where the money goes. As I said there, no auditing. So this is how they do it. This is the scam that Q is telling us about. And this is the scam that they're a part of. And these people, in my opinion, have no excuse. It's all a bunch of, as to take another word from Joe Biden here, it's a bunch of malarkey, right? And they're going to pass it off as, oh, we're just trying to save the world. And then the next thing Q posts here is interesting because it talks about California, right? And I'm going to put this out there. It's a question, all right? I'm asking a question, but since President Trump got in office, he has taken away a lot of federal funding to California for their blatant violations of federal law in many cases. And ever since that has happened, you've seen this mysterious string of disasters that have happened in California where they need FEMA assistance to the tune of billions, right? So if you're living in California, and let's just say you're one of these fine politicians here, corrupt politicians, but, you know, politicians nonetheless. Let's say you're one of these two over here, Nancy Pelosi or Gavin Newsom, and you realize there's massive budget deficits coming and there's going to be shortfalls, and your state is going to go and become insolvent, financially insolvent, because there's no money coming in from federal funding that they've been relying on for so long, which they've also been doing the same thing with, right? The same idea of that climate scam that we just went over has basically taken over a state like California, I think, and we can go through the specific examples another time, but let's say, for time's sake, let's just say that it's possible that they've been doing the same scam in California. So President Trump gets in, he cuts it off. All of a sudden, the whole state's on fire, and FEMA's sending billions and billions and billions of dollars on a regular basis. And every time another budget shortfall comes up, another fire just magically pops up out of nowhere. And you have to ask yourself, is this what you want our country to be? I mean, I have to ask this because can you not objectively, and I'm talking to people out there maybe who aren't in agreement 100% with everything we say here. If you're on the left, how can you objectively look at this and say there's not something here? You just go, oh, it's a coincidence that fires just pop up out of nowhere by the dozen, and that they're taking billions of dollars from FEMA assistance right after their federal funding got cut off. Oh, it's all just a big coincidence. No, you want to dive deeper in these things, because if this is the way our country is going, then we will end up like Rome and every other major empire. We will collapse. We will fail. If you let these criminals continue to run our country into the ground and scam us out of billions and trillions of dollars, our entire treasure, and to sacrifice the blood of our soldiers in these endless wars that only serve to continue to line the pockets of the corrupt politicians and corrupt corporations who are involved in pushing this in the first place, right? It's something that we have to be cognizant of, and we have to ask these questions. And you know, YouTube wants to silence us. Great, perfect. What's new, right? So finally, the next one here, the last post, is this YouTube clip from this movie, Law Abiding Citizen. And I guess this is the actor. I think his name's Gerard Butler. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but I think that's him. And it's this line where he basically says it's going to be biblical. So, and he says that they're going to take down the whole diseased, corrupt temple. I guess he's referring to the people who were trying to set him up in this movie. You'd have to have more context for this movie, but I guess in the movie he gets set up. He's a law-abiding citizen. He gets framed for something he didn't do, and then they try to attack him, and then he basically turns it on them and goes and exposes them and their corruption, which is kind of similar to exactly what we're seeing with President Trump, right? And it's just another interesting thing to look at. But what was also interesting is that over here on QAnon.pub, there wasn't any reference to the actual picture that came with it, but apparently I guess the picture had a picture attached to it. And it was this one. If you guys will recall, this is the tweet that President Trump retweeted from this account called the Trump Train, where it actually has Bill Clinton, Susan Rice, Attorney General Lynch, or excuse me, not Susan Rice. It's got Bill Clinton, James Comey, James Clapper, Uma Abedin, Hillary Clinton, Rod Rosenstein, John Podesta, Robert Mueller, Barack Obama, Eric Holder, and I think, yeah, Attorney General Lynch right there. Excuse me. So, yeah, it's saying, now that the Russia collusion is a proven lie, when do the trials for treason begin? Because what these people have done is tantamount to the worst kind of treason against this nation. And they just run around and act like everything's fine, and all this criminal activity they've been in never happened, and all the American people are never going to find it out. Well, guess what? We are going to find it out. We're going to keep digging, and we're going to expose all of these criminals one by one if we have to. That's the point, right? So you could take that to the bank. And if you put that together with the clip, it makes sense as to what we're talking about here. So a few more things before we go. There's a few big stories out there. Obviously, Adam Schiff obtaining and releasing the personal phone records of Rudy Giuliani and Devin Nunes, with nobody even giving him any pushback on that. But we all know what it is, right? It's these clowns who are trying to protect themselves, illegally spying on the American people even further, right? And then stealing personal private phone records and then putting them out publicly. It's just another example of the sleuth nature, the disgusting criminal nature of these despicable people, as President Trump calls them, human scum, who want to try to attack this country and want to attack the people who are trying to defend it by any means necessary, because they realize that if they are exposed, that's game over for them. So they would rather destroy this country than be exposed as the criminals they are. And they'll do anything. And that just goes to tell you, you know, what we look at here with one of the lawyers testifying in this whole impeachment thing is tweeting back in 2017 about how they need to impeach Trump. So they've been salivating, waiting for this. And it's not, as President Trump likes to put it, it is not about they're investigating a crime. They're investigating to try to find a crime, to find wrongdoing. They're basically just doing what's called a very big fishing expedition, which is completely illegal and antithetical to the American justice system. But that being said, that's what these corrupt people in Congress are doing on a regular basis. And not to mention the fact that you have the same people who are leaking confidential information from Peter Strzok and Lisa Page to the press are the same ones now writing articles for the Washington Post, putting out all this fake news about how Attorney General Barr is disputing the key Inspector General findings, which is probably true, but at the same time, this headline serves nothing but to continue to deceive the American people and mislead them into just completely going the wrong direction. Because if you think about it, they don't really talk about in the headline about how, oh, I don't know, the Inspector General has no prosecutorial power, and that it's the Durham investigation and Barr who have the prosecutorial power to go after these criminals. But these are the same corrupt people. They're all in bed together. So it should not surprise anybody, not to mention the fact that Bill Barr has recently indicted 8 people for illegally funneling millions in foreign money to Hillary's campaign in 2016. But you would never know that by reading the headline that they give you over here at the New York Times. This is the same story, different headline. New York Times, fake news, the fakest news there is. Prominent political donors charged in campaign finance scheme. And look, it's a picture of George Nader with Donald Trump, even though it has absolutely nothing to do with President Trump. And it's all about them illegally funneling money into Hillary Clinton's campaign. But when you read the headline and you see that picture, you automatically think President Trump is involved in this somehow, when in reality, it literally says in the first paragraph, an influential political power broker who was a witness named in the Mueller report was among 8 people charged with conspiring to conceal the source of excessive contributions to groups supporting Hillary Clinton's 2016 presidential campaign, the Justice Department announced on Tuesday. So this is an example of how fake and how much of a disgusting liars these people are. They're just trying to deceive the American people with everything they have, and it really is bad. So one more thing before we go. There was a lot to talk about. You know, obviously they came forward now with new connections between Jeffrey Epstein and the Clintons, because now it turns out they were going out to his Zorro Ranch in New Mexico, which is just outside of Santa Fe. Let me tell you what, there is some bad stuff happening, but I can tell you what, there's some very, very let's say motivated individuals investigating this right now, and they're going to uncover exactly what kind of criminality was taking place out there. And I'll leave it at that because I don't want to get into anything that could affect what's ongoing. But look, here we are, Carry for Truth. This is a thread that was put together about YouTube and Google, and this kind of gives you an idea of what Q was talking about in the last one. And I had to share this before we go because if you recall, Q gave us this graphic, right? And it connected Sergey Brin to the Ann Wojcicki, who they married each other, who is the sister of Susan Wojcicki. And Susan Wojcicki and their family, Ann Wojcicki, is the creepiest family tree you'll ever see. And it makes you ask a lot of very important questions. But this story, remember also, December 2nd, 2019 was when Q posted this, right? Well, guess what happened yesterday, December 3rd? Sergey Brin and Larry Page stepped down from Google. Can't make it up. They stepped down. So Q knew this was coming. Q gave us the heads up, and it just goes to continue to validate what Q is doing here and how they have access to information, and they're helping get it out to the public. But I want to talk about this very briefly, the Wojcicki family tree. If you look at her father, right, he is this physicist. He's obsessed with CERN. We all know CERN is connected to all that sick, occult, satanic ritualism. And they're talking about opening doors to other dimensions. Some really sick, creepy stuff these people are trying to do, right? He's obsessed with it, apparently, but he's been covering it for quite some time. And then it goes on to talk about the mother, who has built one of the biggest California journalism programs in the nation, or they built the California journalism program into one of the biggest in the nation. She's been California Teacher of the Year, and she just so happens to write for HuffPost, which, by the way, HuffPost has attacked yours truly here, this channel, basically writing all types of lies about us. And subsequently thereafter, very shortly after that article was published, actually the same day, I think, they demonetized my entire channel, right? So it was a coordinated attack, right? They wrote their fake news hit piece about me in HuffPost, who happens to have the CEO's mother as one of their contributors, right? And then the CEO of YouTube, I should say, as one of their contributors. And then they subsequently went to attack my channel even further because these people are disgusting and sick. Obviously, Esther Wojcicki is her name. These people make me sick. I don't even know what to tell you, right? And then you look at the daughter, Susan Wojcicki's worth $500 million. One of the most powerful women in the world, is the CEO of YouTube. And then her sister is 23andMe, GlaxoSmithKline, taking our DNA and making new medicines. So basically, you pay them to steal your DNA, then sell it to big pharma who uses it to make billions of dollars, and you don't get any money. You actually pay them for the privilege of them to steal your personal medical information and use it to benefit themselves and make millions and millions of dollars, if not billions. Great, perfect, right? They're all friends with Bill Gates, and we know his agenda as far as what he thinks about overpopulation and how we solve that problem. Then it's the fact that the 23andMe lady's married to Sergey Brin, and then they step down and it talks about the Google logo being a 666 and all this stuff. Look, these people, to me, I got nothing to say. You know, I've said what I said. I said my piece. You guys know how I feel about this, and you guys, I'm gonna leave it to you to make your own opinions, but look, that's where we're at right now. That's where we're going to go ahead and leave it. A few more things before we go. Obviously, come here, watch these videos, share them on your social media, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and leave your thoughts, theories, and insights below. I want to hear what you guys have to say about all of this stuff, because it's truly important to me to hear your feedback and see what's going on out there. But with that being said, a few more things you can do to help out the channel. Come over here and find me on Twitter at JUSTINFORMED, the official Twitter page for Just Informed Talk. We can have a conversation over here. It's a great place to connect. Also, don't forget to check out justinformednews.com, the official website for Just Informed Talk. Links to the Q stuff, different news sites, breaking news, and of course, the latest from the channel here. So go check that out. Also, I'm on BitChute. You know, we don't know what's happening with YouTube. It's going crazy, right? I think they're going to have some kind of purge coming up before 2020. They have to try to get rid of everyone, I think, because it's the only way they can win. They can't compete with better ideas. They can only compete with censorship and silencing dissent. So that's, I think, going to be a part of their plan moving forward. So if you guys want to help, find me on other platforms, including BitChute. Come over here and subscribe to me, and we can connect over there. It's a great place to keep together. And you know, just in case anything happens here, I want to be able to keep publishing content. I'm not going to stop regardless. So here we are. Also, Patreon. You guys keep this channel alive. Without your support here on Patreon, I don't know what I would do. I would not be able to do this. I'm so thankful. If you guys haven't, come over here. You should come over here and check it out. Link will be in the description. It's a monthly donation. You set it and forget it, and know you're helping create content on this channel regularly. So thank you for that. Also, I have a GoFundMe set up. If you want to make a one-time or anonymous donation, links to everything we've talked about will be in the description. So go check that out. But before we go, we always end with a segment we call God's Grace is Greater, where we talk about God's grace and how it is truly greater. Because, you know, I'm a Christian, and I think one of my biggest things I struggle with is understanding that, you know, I have to do unto others. I have to turn the other cheek. I have to be a better man than the evil that we see in this age. But, you know, God does tell us that there's a time for war and there's a time for peace, and that there is something to be said for righteous indignation against true evil. So I always find myself in between, where it's like, I don't know how to control, you know, my anger sometimes against these evil people that I see existing and taking advantage of others and deceiving the world. But I take solace in what God has done for me in my life, the gift that was given to me of my eternal salvation through the sacrifice of Jesus Christ, and the power I find in the Holy Spirit that lives in my heart. I take those things and I use those as strength, and I just persevere forward, and I try to always rein myself back by putting everything in perspective, in God's perspective, if you will. And for that, I want to share this verse that I remind myself of when I feel like, you know, just you know, you're in this battle that you can never win, right? And I remind myself this is an important one out of Ephesians, and we've talked about this before, but it talks about putting on the armor of God. And it's chapter 6, verse 13 through 17. And it says, "This is why you must take up the full armor of God, so that you may be able to resist in the evil day, and having prepared everything to take your stand, stand therefore with truth like a belt around your waist, righteousness like armor on your chest, and your feet sandaled with readiness for the gospel of peace. In every situation take the shield of faith, and with it you will be able to extinguish the flaming arrows of the evil one. Take the helmet of salvation and the sword of the Spirit, which is God's word. And when I hear those words, I remind myself that God's in control. It's not me. And everything that's going to happen in this world is going to be a part of his plan. And I can't change that. But what I can do is I can live a righteous life. I can put my faith in God. And I can try every day to be a good man and do unto others and give back. And I think that's what my message is to you guys. Go out and do that. Remember, living a righteous life, putting God first and helping others. These are the things that we need to focus on. This is how we defeat this great evil, because all of these people, a lot of these people we talk about, they just focus on themselves and making more for themselves and getting more power and control, because that's all their lives are about. They're not about God, but we are. And that's my message to you, is to go out into the world, put on the armor of God, and remember what we learn here is God is with us, and God is the true ultimate power. So that's my message to you. I'm going to leave it there. Thanks for watching this episode. Come here, hit the subscribe button if you haven't, and hit it, punch it, tap it, bop it, twist it, whatever, turn it. Hit the like button if you guys like this content and want to see me make more. That's going to be it for me. Thanks for watching Just Informed Talk. My name is Craig. Godspeed and God bless each and every one of you, Patriots.